before we go live, we're waiting for the update sheet, but we are going to do items 1 to 4 first, and then the item
8,
that should arrive.
7,
the update sheet.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, members and members of the public, and anybody watching us on YouTube channel. And welcome to the Planning Committee held today on the 11th of November, Armistice Day, here at MSDC at 4 p.m. I'm Councillor Gary Marsh, I'm the Chairman of the committee. To my left is my Vice Chairman, Councillor Philip Coots. To his left is Zach, our Legal Officer, and Tom Tart, who you probably all know, who's our Senior Legal Officer, Chief Legal Officer. To my right are my 2 planning officers, both senior planning officers, and the team leader. In front of me are the members of the committee. Welcome. Item 1 is to receive items, apologies of absence. I do actually have 4. Councillors Pulford, DeBell, Walker and Sweatman. I wish them all well, because they're not very well apparently. Item 2, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Do we have any? Councillor Bruce Forbes.
Just to point out to the item DM/20/4712 land at Balcombe House. I am the West Sussex County Councillor for Balcombe.
Okay, thank you. Item 3 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held, of the committee held last month, well, 2 months ago now, on the 9th of September. Is everybody happy with that?
Yep, agree.
Okay, could you just raise your hands to say you agree with that? Thank you. Consider our assignment later. Item 4 is considering the items that the Chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. Before we go to the substantive part, I'm going to ask the Vice Chairman just to read out the fire drill stuff and health and safety.
Thank you, Chairman. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous 2-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, 1. Leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. 2. Follow the green signs to the assembly point, large staff car park opposite the entrance to the building. 3. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by officers present after the people have left. 4. Do not return to the building until it is safe to do so and told to by an authorised officer. The whole of the council site is a no smoking area. Filming from the public gallery is permitted, but members must please refrain from filming within the council chamber so as not to distract the meeting. Mobile phones must be switched to silent. Thank you very much.
All right, members, now before we go to item 5, we're just going to get, so you get a hard copy of the updates that there are, but we have all received them in various guises of emails. But I think it's only right just to delay it a fraction while we wait for these items, because you might want to reference it when you wish to say anything.
Chairman, they might want to read the long briefing note on agenda item 8 while we're waiting.
Could do. This came by email. I have read it. It's to do with item 8. It's the tree preservation area in Bolney. If you wish to start reading it, but you should have had it all. It came a couple of days, 2 days ago, yesterday? Came yesterday. Yeah. So I've read it, but if anybody wishes to read it, it's there. I do need the update sheets, Tom, don't I, to start with it. They are coming, apparently. So it's Christmas. Excuse me. As always, we've been in here for a few months now. Can we not move the microphones, just talk towards them, edit towards them, go, because they are sensitive, we don't actually own them. That man up in the corner up there owns them. Actually, you might want to use your time to read what the two speakers are going to say on the first application from Bolcombe, so you can follow it as discussed.
Thank you.
Joe, do you wish to do the first item, which is DM 204712, land adjacent to Bolcombe House, London Road, Bolcombe, West Sussex.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to refer members to the update sheet which was circulated earlier, on there is a detailed response from Bolcombe Parish Council which was sent round to members on Friday. There's also a couple of typos in relation to the NPPF paragraph in relation to designated heritage assets, confirmation on what the local community infrastructure contribution is to be spent on, and also just confirmation that the public car park is to be secured through the Section 106 legal agreement. Thank you. So residential development is sought to provide 17 dwellings within the site, edged in red here, as well as a public car park for 10 parking spaces, associated landscaping, parking and vehicular access onto Haywards Heath Road. So the application site is that edged in red here, shown on the cursor. It is an irregular shape currently of plantation woodland with trees and vegetation within and on the boundaries of the site. There are residential properties to the south and southeast of the site, down here and here. You've got the Bolcombe Village Primary School in this location. To the north here, including this area edged in blue, is the parkland setting of Bolcombe House, which is located here, which is a Grade 2 listed building. This parkland setting is screened by trees on the boundaries of the site. The proposed development is almost surrounded by Bolcombe Conservation Area. The site is located within the built-up area of Bolcombe, as well as the Highwold area of outstanding natural beauty. The site is allocated within the Bolcombe Neighbourhood Plan under Policy 2I for residential development for approximately 14 dwellings, the provision of a public car park. Details of the requirements of this policy is set out on page 20 of the report. So this block plan just shows that the proposal for 17 dwellings comprising of a block of 1 and 2 bed flats in this location, and then semi-detached and detached dwellings of 3 beds and 1 4-bed dwelling in this location, as well as associated landscaping, car parking for each of the dwellings, as well as visitor parking for the development of the residential dwellings, parking in this location for the flatted development, as well as the village car park in this location here of 10 parking spaces. Out of the 17 dwellings, there would be the provision of 5 affordable dwellings as part of the scheme. The site would have 1 vehicular access off of Haywards Heath Road in this location here. to serve both the housing and the village car park. The proposed access serving the village car park would allow surveillance of it. Each property would benefit from off-road parking with a number of dwellings and benefiting from garaging. Parking would be to the side of the dwellings, which is supported within the design guide, and the parking here opposite for the flats. This just shows all the trees that are to be retained within the site, so you can't see all of the parking as clearly as the previous slide. The allocation policy in the neighbourhood plan requires the existing tree-lined frontage along Haywards Heath Road to be retained and improved, and plans show that the boundary trees and vegetation are to be retained with planting, buffer and enhanced planting within the boundaries and on the boundaries of the site. The impacts of ecology and trees are set out on pages 39 to 41 of the report. The majority of trees to be removed within the site are of low classification, with many being non-native plantation trees. So this slide just shows the location of the site, which is here, in relation to the conservation area, which is this area hatched in blue, and the red buildings are all the listed buildings surrounding the site. The heritage assets are identified on page 24 of the report, and the impacts on each of these heritage assets are considered in turn within the report. It is considered the proposal would result in less than substantial harm to the designated heritage assets, where para 202 of the NPPF applies, where the harm to the designated heritage assets should be weighed against the public benefits. The public benefits of the development are set out on page 32 of the report through the creation of 17 dwellings, including 5 affordable dwellings in a sustainable location. The proposal would result in the provision of a public car park, as required in Policy 2 of the Neighbourhood Plan. These benefits are considered to outweigh the identified harm to the designated heritage assets. And so just a number of slides showing the proposed design and the floor plans and layout of the dwellings within the site. So the proposal provides a traditional design which reflects materials and building styles that are found in other housing in the village and are of a relatively modest scale. The variations in the design of the properties would add to the visual interest of the proposed cul-de-sac and would be sensitive to the character of the area. Details of sustainable measures to be incorporated into the development are detailed on page 38 of the report. This is a fabric-first approach, including passive solar gain, natural daylighting, and water efficiency measures. Conditions are suggested in Appendix 1 in relation to each dwelling having covered and secure parking and details on electric charging vehicle points. The Council's urban designer raises no objection to the scheme. It's an indicative street scene taken from Haywards Heath Road, showing that the development would sit comfortably within the site and reflect the general character of the street scene along Haywards Heath Road, whilst retaining a woodland setting and tree vegetation screening on the front boundaries. The car parking is to be set in this location behind the hedging, with vegetation screening to soften the area of hard surfacing, and it be seen in context with adjacent housing proposed as part of the development. Officers consider the proposal presents a positive relationship with the street and would not adversely affect the character of the area. So just some photographs of the site. This is looking down Haywards Heath Road towards the mini roundabout and the school, showing the site and the condition of the trees. Trees within the site and the conifer trees and the dense boundary screening. And this is looking back from the village green here, back along the site, up into Balcombe itself. Photographs from within the site, boundaries of the site. And this photo here is taken from the parkland setting within Balcombe House, looking back onto the site, showing the northern boundary and the dense vegetation that would be retained. So the principle of residential development on this site is established through its allocation in the neighbourhood plan. The proposal shows that 17 dwellings and the public car parking can be suitably accommodated within the site. The proposed layout, design and scale is considered appropriate and would not form an overdevelopment of the site. Officers consider the proposal would provide a high-quality development which is well laid out with sufficient parking and well-spaced plots. The development is considered to sit comfortably in the site. The district plan and the NPPF seeks proposals to optimise the potential of the site, and the proposed numbers and layout is considered appropriate in this instance. The public benefits in the creation of 17 dwellings, including 5 affordable dwellings in a sustainable location, reflects one of the key objectives of the NPPF. The proposal would result in a number of infrastructure contributions which would be secured through a legal agreement, as well as the formation of a public car park for the village. In addition, in the short term, the proposal would also deliver a number of construction jobs and as a result of additional spending within the economy once occupied. As such, it's considered the proposal would result in significant public benefits which would outweigh the identified less than substantial harm to the setting of the conservation area and the nearby listed buildings, as well as the ecology on the site. Officers consider that in the context of the district and neighbourhood plan, the proposed development of the site complies with the development plan and that there are no material considerations indicating a decision should be made otherwise than in accordance with it. That brings my presentation to an end. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Joe. We have a number of speakers. Representing the parish council is Councillor Lloyd Thompson. Could you come to where Terry's just pulled out the seat? The mic is already on, so you just have to start speaking. You have 2 minutes to speak. Once you start speaking, the traffic light system will come on. SACR officer will switch it on. You've got green light for 90 seconds. And after 90 seconds, an amber light comes on. And you've got 30 seconds. And when the red light comes on, can you conclude in 1 sentence, please? Okay. Thank you.
This site was brought forward through our neighbourhood plan to meet 2 identified needs: a village car park and affordable smaller housing. It is a highly sensitive site adjacent to the village green. We have 3 issues relating to this: overdevelopment, the housing mix and the village car park. A 2018 application with 17 units was withdrawn because MSDC recommended refusal on the grounds of overdevelopment of the site. The landowner has once again brought forward only 80% of the original allocated site. The remaining 20% is accessible from the owner's driveway and could be developed separately in the future. If so, it would be accepted from having an affordable element being a small site. Despite the smaller plot size, the current proposal contains 17 rather than the 14 units proposed in our plan. As a result, parking is in tandem driveways, turning space is cramped, and parking at the flats inappropriately positioned. Rather than the private gardens to the flats that were provided in the previous application, one communal area is now provided to the rear. Other consultees, including High Weald AONB, have also commented they think the site is too densely developed. Contrary to the policy for 2- and 3-bed properties for this site, a 4-bedroomed house remains in the plan. Furthermore, MSDC have proposed a reduced commuted sum instead of a 6th affordable unit. But Balcombe is a village entirely in the AONB, and affordable housing need must be provided within the AONB. We argue that it should be provided within the same parish for which the requirement arises. We strongly object to the provision of a proportion of the due affordable element by commuted sum, whilst the site also profits from a larger 4-bedroom unit out of policy, and consider this to be unacceptable.
Thank you. Now, before I ask the next speaker, it's just got to be quickly sanitised before we go to the next speaker, which will be Councillor Nikki Gould, but she is speaking on behalf of as a local resident instead of a resident of the parish council, even though she is a member of the parish council. She's speaking just as a local resident. Once you start speaking, the light will go on.
Okay. The proposed village car park. The Parish Council have no interest in taking on a car park that does not meet our requirements for supporting the village centre shops and facilities. Access to the car park running past the houses and flats via a single entrance from the road is not acceptable. We need the car park to be visible from the road. We need the access to be separate from the development. Ownership and management of the car park area must be independent of any ongoing commitment to a residential management company. To facilitate this, the Parish Council have committed to purchase a ransom strip of land from West Sussex County Council, enabling direct access from the Haywards Heath Road to the car park, and the transfer is currently progressing with their legal team. Highways advice has also been sought by the Parish Council, and this week we received a favourable response towards a second entrance. Although Shanley have promised to submit a second application for this site with 2 entrances, that's not what you're seeing today. Surprisingly, arrangements for the car park are not being included in the Section 106 agreement by Mid Sussex, despite being the planned infrastructure gain in the policy for this site. This has left the negotiations for the car park entirely within the Parish Council and outside the finalisation of the Section 106 agreement and the officer's recommendations. The Parish Council has made all parties aware that it will not accept the current car park arrangements. Finally, after a year of consultation and feedback from many consultees, nothing about this application has been amended as a result of any advice given. We question what the process of consultation is worth in material terms. And with some regret, we must mention that the continued and persistent lack of communication from Mid Sussex to the Parish Council regarding applications for the neighbourhood plan sites. We intend once more to raise the issue formally with Mid Sussex.
Thank you. And the third speaker is Mark Hendy from Shanley Homes. Could we just wait till it gets sanitised for you, please? Thank you, Mr. Hendy. As soon as you start speaking, the green light will come on.
We have held pre-application discussions with your officers and the Parish Council, as well as a number of meetings with the parish through the application process, to formulate a scheme that both addresses the constraints of the site and provides new homes for smaller households. The outcome of these discussions was that the number of 4-bed houses was reduced from 5 in the original proposal to 1 plot only in favour of smaller homes. The layout was also reconfigured to bring the village car park alongside the buildings rather than sited behind them, giving improved visibility of it. The parking for the new homes was also repositioned between the houses rather than in front of them to make them less visible in the street scene. The revised proposals have the support of the Council's Urban Design Officer. The site allocation does not specify site capacity and simply anticipates approximately 14 dwellings. The figure in the neighbourhood plan is intended as a guide only. Our proposal demonstrates that there is sufficient space to accommodate 17 dwellings without compromising the quality of design, as agreed by the Council's Urban Design Officer and your Planning Officer. This includes 5 affordable homes and a contribution in lieu of on-site provision to fund a 6th unit as a 2-bed flat, which has been agreed with the housing officer. The public car park is to be sited between the new homes and existing properties so that it forms an integral part of the village expansion. The Parish Council have supported this arrangement, although we are not able to deliver the separate access to the car park which they are seeking, as this would cross land which is not within our ownership or control. Shanley Homes will build the new car park for use by the local community, and we are willing to transfer it to the Parish or District Council. During construction of the new car park, updates can be provided to the local community to clearly indicate its location, to encourage awareness, to address any concerns that it would not be visible from the public highway.
Can you conclude in one sentence now, please?
Yep. We have also committed to the parish that should the potential second access become certain, which is not currently the case, we could look to accommodate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hendy. And before we open the floor to debate, a question was raised by the first speaker about section 106 in the car park. Is that?
Yeah, so in terms of the car park, first of all, just draw your attention to condition 21, which requires the details of that car park to be submitted and approved to the council. But in terms of securing the car park going forward, then it will be, as noted in the update sheet in front of you, it will form part of the section 106 agreement in terms of securing it. And obviously there will then need to be a discussion over management, but that would be separate, but it will be secured in 106, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now, normally I allow it go straight to the floor, but as I'm the local ward councillor and I live in Bolton, I'm going to exercise my right to speak first as the ward councillor. Well, first of all, I do welcome this site coming forward. It's been a long time in gestation, and so I'm actually pleased we got to this stage, and that's as far as it goes. Bolton put forward 3 sites for the in their neighbourhood plan, and there are 3 distinct sites. One down by the station for flats, because it's right next to the railway station. Another one was on Barnfield, which came from this committee a while ago. That was 3 and 4 bedrooms, and this site was for 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms, or units, shall we say. What is disappointing, there are no 2-bedroom houses. Now, the late Andrew McNaughton, you all remember him, my fellow ward councillor at the time. We attended the pre-act on this site, and we were a bit dismayed to find 4-bedroom houses on this site. And as Mr. Hendy did say, it came from 5 4-bedroom to 1. However, saying that, we still have a 4-bedroom house on this site, which is contrary to the neighbourhood plan. Now, I hear what has been said. They do not feel this to be an overdevelopment of the site, and looking at the layout, you could see it probably isn't. However, saying that, if the 4-bedroom house wasn't there and that was moved into 2-bedroom houses, I'm not going to design it for them. That's down to Shanley's. But I consider that somewhere along the line there's been a communications breakdown on this site, and it should be for 1, 2 and 3 bedroom. I have people who have wanted this site to come forward, who live in the village, and they want to downsize. They wanted to downsize from their 4 and 5 bedrooms on the road that you used to live on, so they could still remain in the village and have a 2-bedroom house, and have a little bit of a garden to pot around in. Not going to happen because there's no 2-bedroom houses, which is what the parish council actually wanted on this site. Yes, they wanted the 3-bedroom as well, but we've got flats which are 1 and 2, but no smaller dwellings in terms of 2 and 3-bedroom houses on this site. So I do find it very disappointing that we got to this stage. I do know the Bolton Parish Council are very, shall we say, miffed, which I think is a polite way of saying they're very unhappy. There are no smaller provision houses on this site. These houses are not designed for the people in my village. These are designed for people who live outside the village, to come into the village, to expand the village, not to downsize and then release 4, 5, 6-bedroom houses within the village, which is what we wanted on this site. There was a consultation, it went out to public vote, and the people voted on this site. So I've got to say, somewhere along the line there's been a communications breakdown, and I'm unhappy. However, I will listen to the debate of my members here before I make up my mind. Suffice to say, you know where I'm standing. Councillor Forbes, you wish to speak next?
Thank you, Chairman. I presume, Tom, that I can say the dealings I had through West Sussex, because Bolton approached me as a West Sussex councillor.
Yes.
I'm quite surprised with the application myself, because I was quite surprised. I've got a plan here from Shanley, and it says revised scheme prepared by Shanley with a separate car park entrance, a separate residential and public car parking, and etc. Reduce the noise to the development. This plan has not been submitted yet. We will seek your support if it were submitted, would it be approved? And I got the plan, which is similar to that, but it has got a separate entrance to the car park. The reason I got involved is because I got this. In agreement with the developer, the parish council have negotiated with West Sussex for the transfer of the ransom strip of land along the verge from West Sussex to the parish council in order to facilitate the direct access from Haywards Road to the public car park, so it's only used from them. And as they were having problems negotiating, I set up some meetings with the parish and I talked to the director, etc. And as far as I was going, everything was going along quite well. It seemed that the agreement was going to go ahead. So to see this, but not for 14 homes, but 17, and not a separate road, is taken me quite by surprise, because I'm not saying it's wasted my time, and West Sussex is, but I'm just totally flabbergasted with the design, especially when I got in front of me Shanley's development saying it can be a separate road.
Thank you, Councillor. But we did hear from Nicky Gold saying that they had received information that the highways have no objection on this second site. What I did admit to say is 22% more houses, units, on this site than was actually visualised in the neighbourhood plan. Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Cartwright.
As an ex-resident of Bolcombe, it is near to my heart. On the positive side, a lot of applications like this in high-wheel villages have a lot of residents objecting for a whole range of reasons. Here it wasn't the case, which is a positive point. However, I agree, it's neither fish nor fowl at the moment, and your point about having 1, 2, 3 bedroom houses seems to be much more opposite, that we should be building houses for people who live in the village rather than trying to attract people from outside. And also, it's not necessarily going to attract people because of the mix that it is now. And I also feel that it's a very good point that the car park needs an entrance near the centre of the village, because it won't feel like a car park for the centre of the village as it's set up at the moment. So I think both speakers made very good points.
Thank you. My Vice Chair, do you wish to speak? No? Councillor Coote, my Vice Chairman.
Councillor Eggleston wants to speak up too.
You'll wait. Councillor Eggleston.
Just quickly, Chairman. It's a question really, whether the legal officer could answer. So if we were framing a refusal, is the fact that the intention of this site was intended for 1 and 2 bedroom units,
1, 2 and 3.
1, 2 and 3 bedroom units, and in particular 1 and 2 bedroom houses, is that a ground that you could use for refusing this application, which is predominantly 3 plus a 4 bedroom unit?
The neighbourhood plan carries some weight, but not an awful lot of weight, so it would be a fairly weak ground.
But if it was an overdevelopment because of 3 or 4 bedroom houses?
I think that's even weaker.
You think so?
Because it doesn't look like overdevelopment.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I visited the site for the first time a couple of days ago, and to familiarise myself with Bolcombe and this particular site. And I was particularly looking at the car parking proposal, and I'm reading the police comment on that, which is on page 89. And they mention it's hidden from view, and it doesn't really satisfy their requirements in terms of crime. And I wouldn't want to park in that car park as it is at the moment. Going back to the neighbourhood plan, the parish required a provision of a car park of 10 spaces. They don't say exactly where, but in 2016, when they prepared the neighbourhood plan, they wouldn't be looking. I feel sure they wouldn't be looking at something at the side of these flats. So I feel that that's unsatisfactory, and I think it needs a separate entrance so that it's absolutely clear that it's a public car park, and also the provision of it seems very unsatisfactory with 106 money. It seems to me that this should all be written up in the conditions of this order, that it's ready and oven ready, let's say, for the parish council to take control of, because I know from my own experience the district council aren't very interested in car parks that aren't funding, that aren't raising funds. So that's my concern about the car park. The other thing is, like you, I was surprised that no two-bedroom houses have come forward. And on plot 6 and 7, for instance, adjacent to the flats, the 5 flats, there are 2 3-bedroom houses. I would have thought you probably have got 3 2-bedroom houses on the same plot, for example. So I really don't see why there has to be a commuted sum for the 6 affordable property. And also, people who are getting old, they're looking to downsize. They don't want to live in a block of flats. They don't want stairs. They certainly don't want two flights of stairs. Having said that, I think the top flat is a 3-bedroom flat. It's not. Okay, I'm sorry. So. The other thing that I was a little bit concerned about, the way it's developed, is the ecologist made a very strong case for the retention of the Haywards Heath Road hedgerow, which she states is undoubtedly an ancient hedgerow, and by this arrangement it's been sliced up by this main entrance. Which is really in the wrong place to my mind. I feel the entrance should be towards the village centre and then serving the car park directly and the houses, rather than this complicated arrangement in the middle. But the main point the main concern I've got, which I think is quite material, is the retention of that ancient boundary of the woodland, that ancient hedgerow. And then finally, I can see I'm not sure, I don't feel there's enough real car parking there, with a garage and a car parking space in front of the garage. Everybody fills their garages up with junk these days. And this car park is likely just to be used for overspill parking from the residents on this estate as it stands at the moment. Thank you, Chairman.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Councillor Brown, because that is precisely what the parish council fear, is the car park will just become, especially as this tandem car parking at the other places. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Following on from what you said about the 4-bedroom house, it's a great shame. This is a classic site for retirement homes. And when I say that, I don't mean a block of flats. I mean bungalows with 2 bedrooms, a small garden. The density could have probably been increased in a case like that. And I appreciate that it's all about economics and the bottom line, but we do need retirement homes. We need bungalows for people who want to move out of large houses, move over and let other people have them. And it's a great shame. We would have been a great opportunity to produce something really quite attractive, instead of which we've got what I would call, having been in the industry, a bog standard, how much can we get in, and that's it. I'm very disappointed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I think when the neighbourhood plan was drawn up and the consultations went out, that was precisely what this site was meant to be. I'm getting some nods from, because I know Nikki, she was part of that, so I think Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. I hear what the legal officer says about the weight that we can give to neighbourhood plans, but having myself spent several years producing a neighbourhood plan for our village, I think where we should support the neighbourhood plans that the various towns and villages have produced. One question, the representatives from the council have said that the car park as it is, with the one entrance, they would not be keen to adopt. What would happen to that car park if the parish council failed to adopt it?
It will probably become overgrown.
Who would be responsible for the administration?
Good question. It's a question that hasn't been answered yet. I mean, I know that the management company have said that they don't want to take over the car park. But it's the question, the idea was to separate that car park with a different entrance. I know they can have a different road surface on it to say this is village car park, you're not allowed to park it unless you can use it. This is your car park, but there's nothing to say you can't do it because MSDC won't police it. I can tell you that as an ex-cabinet member in charge of car park, we will not police a private car park. Anyway, there's been quite a number of questions, and I think the officer needs to answer a few of those.
If I just come back just on that last point first, then perhaps Joe can come in and then I'll pick up anything else. Just in terms of the future management of the car park, then that will be a matter that would be contained within the 106. Clearly, we would envisage that there'd be a covenant on it that it is for the use of the public in perpetuity. How that is managed, whether it is through the parish council or through then a management company, that will be a matter to resolve in the future at that particular point in time. But through the granting of a planning permission and the sign of a section 106, we will secure a car park that needs to be open for public use in perpetuity. The management will then be another issue that we'll need to discuss at that particular point in time. So I just wanted to clarify that point. Joe, do you want to pick up some of the others and then I'll come back maybe at the end?
I'll try and cover most of them, if not all of them. So turning to the neighbourhood plan policy, it says approximately 14, and it does say comprising a mix of 1, 2 and 3 beds. The proposal is to provide 1 and 2 beds. It doesn't specify it has to be houses rather than flats, and the 1 and 2 beds are to be in plots 1 to 5. The district plan policy requires a housing mix, and it's not considered unacceptable that the rest of the mix is unacceptable, and it's considered that it is policy compliant in relation to DP 30 and broadly meets the neighbourhood plan policy. In relation to the hedging along the frontage, the policy requires the tree line and frontage to be retained, but also it does require an access to come off of Haywards Heath Road, which obviously would cause some harm and loss to the hedging along there. And it's considered one access would minimise that impact in any instance that the hedging would be affected with any form of access onto the site. And officers are content and consider that this proposal in front of us is acceptable in that instance as well. There was the point about the car parking that's set out in the report, and it's considered that it does meet the county parking standards of 35 car parking spaces for the residential development itself, and it would provide sufficient parking for residents. And as I previously said in my presentation, tandem parking to the side of dwellings is supported within the design guide. We can only obviously consider what is in front of us, not any potential schemes that are being discussed by the parish council, and this has been submitted by the developer, and officers consider that it is policy compliant and it is meeting broadly all the requirements of the neighbourhood plan, and we can only consider what is in front of us at present now. Steve's covered off the section 106 details, and condition 21 does require details of the car park to be provided and the car park to be provided prior to any occupation of the dwelling. So, any dwellings, sorry. So, car parking has to be in place before any dwelling can be occupied to make sure that it is there. And within that condition, requiring the scheme of the details of the car park, officers could request signage to ensure that it is suitably shown and people can know that it is in the village, but obviously it's a village car park for occupiers of the village, and so they would know that the car park would be there. Its position next to the flats and utilising the existing access road in front of plots 1 to 7 would also allow surveillance to allow it to be safe and visible for security measures, and the urban designer is happy and supports the scheme. I think I may have covered the points, Steve.
I think you have.
I'll just pick up a couple of more general points. Obviously, I hear committee's concerns, particularly in terms of what's been stated in terms of the numbers of the units on site, in terms of reference to the neighbourhood plan, and also in terms of the mix. Obviously, as officers have said and as set out in the report, the policy refers to approximately 14. You have a DP26 or district plan policy which requires the optimisation of sites to make sure that we maximise development. And clearly on other sites where we have the term approximately, then as a council we have approved additional units. There was one, as you referred to, the one in Balkham, which was for approximately 14, and we approved 16 on that site. And there was a site in Bolnall Road, on the old depot, which was for approximately 15, and we approved 18. So what you need to look at is the actual details of the application, and clearly as set out in terms of the layout and the design, your urban designer is satisfied that it complies with policy DP26, and that complies with the design guide. So you can't just purely look at the number, you need to actually look at the scheme that's come forward. And just in terms of the mix, again, I note the concerns about the 1 4-bedroom unit. Again, I would refer to the scheme that we had in west of Turners Hill Road in Crawley Down, where within the Crawley Down neighbourhood plan, they had a specific percentage of 2 and 3 bedroom units on the site. An application came forward that didn't comply wholly with that mix, but overall the mix was good and it was approved. So what you need to look at is the mix, the overall mix, and the overall mix is largely 1, 2 and 3 bed units with 1 4-bed unit. That complies with the development plans in terms of your district plan policy DP30, and officers are also content that actually complies with the neighbourhood plan policy, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Can I just ask one question before I make any other comments? Anybody else wish to come back? What is the actual density on this site in terms of, per hectare?
24 dwellings per hectare.
24. Thank you very much. That's a good question, good answer. I've just had a breakdown of what we've got. We've got 1 to 5 units, which are 1 and 2 bedroom. And we've got 11 3-bedroom and 1 4-bedroom, which is, like I say, 22% over the limit. Now, I asked for the density on this site, and I think there's only 2 members of the committee, myself and my vice chairman, who dealt with an application up in Pease Pottage about the density on the entrance to the village up at Pease Pottage when you come down Forest Road, and that was turned down because it was too high density, because it's the outskirt of the village. So you normally would have a lesser on the outskirt, and as you got into the village the density would get higher, and when you hear it, you're going very high to lower as you go into the village per hectare. So, because the way Balcombe is set up, it's quite weird. It's like an arrow shaped. The further you go away from the village, the higher the density is. So the actual centre of the village, though it looks like there's an awful lot of houses around there, actually they're not really, because it's very small. It's just, I can't get my head around the fact it's 22% over what the parish council said. There are no 2-bedroom houses on this site, which was what was requested. Yes, policy says 1, 2 and 3, and yes, take away the 4-bedroom, 16 out of the 17 houses do fall within that policy. The 4th bedroom shouldn't be there at all, and that the 11.3 bed should be smaller. Anyway, my Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Dealing with the car park, I'm also a parish councillor, and we have 2 car parks, and they are constantly frequented by people who shouldn't be there. And there's no doubt that this will become part of the estate. So my suggestion to the developer, although as the Chairman said, it's not for us really to design, where the 4-bedroom house is, there's a garage at the end of the road there. If that garage, assuming there was enough room, was swiveled to put alongside the house, you could have an entrance onto the road there, and I do speak with some authority because I was a Deputy Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport for West Sussex for some time. You could have an entrance there, you could close up that other entrance, and then you could have a new entrance for the car park, because there is no doubt that that car park will be used by the residents, and the village needs a car park. In our village, we built 2 car parks, and everybody said, "Oh, they won't be used." Well, they're damn nearly full all the time. So I think that would be a far better arrangement, and it wouldn't take very much to do.
You're doing planning on that one. You're not meant to do things. That's too close to the roundabout as well. Anybody else wish to say anything? Councillor Brown.
A question. I just heard that the car park would be under surveillance from units 1 to 7, I think.
1 to 5.
Oh, 1 to, okay, I missed
Flats.
that. 1 to 5. I suggest not so. Only the ones on the east side. So
it's actually southern, the way that it is. Unfortunately, it does look east, but it's not. It's actually south.
Okay.
Oh, have you finished? I thought you were having a drink. You were coughing.
It's tea. I think I'm sort of. I don't quite understand how the surveillance comes about, Chairman.
No, I think likewise. Right. I think I've got the gist of what the members like, and they don't like it. So we've now got to are we going to vote for it or against it? So I need a proposer to say, are you going to vote against it or against it?
Move to refuse, Chairman.
Move to refuse. Do we have a seconder? And I think, Councillor Cartwright. And the reason. Now, I personally think it's an overdevelopment of the site. And if the site had been what we wanted it to be, I mean, when it says approximately, I go with approximately 1 over and 1 below it, but not 22% over, which is 3 over. And I hear what you say about the old depot, 15 to 18. But I think it's an overdevelopment of the site, and the housing mix is just not right. And I think we have a representative from the developer. He's heard what the committee has said, and the committee has said they want 1, 2 and 3 bedroom units on that site, and not the 4 bedroom. And they want some housing, because there are people in the village who desperately need 2 bedroom houses. And I hear what my Vice Chairman said about for retirement, but it's for the younger members of the village who want to live in the village, want their very first house to live in the village, and they won't be able to afford a £480,000 3-bedroom house, because Balcombe is very expensive. So If members are agreeable to the reasons to...
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, go on.
You've mentioned overdevelopment. I'm going to have to push and say what overdevelopment itself isn't a reason for refusal. You have to identify what harm is being caused. So we need to be quite clear here, because you've got your urban design, you've got your design comments which are content with the impact on the character and appearance of the area. So I need to be quite clear. We need to be quite clear what harm is being caused in terms of overdevelopment.
Okay.
As I said earlier, Chairman, I think the housing mix is a stronger point.
The housing mix.
Not strong, but stronger.
Well, as the area is surrounded by a conservation area on 3 sides, with the density of around the 3 sides of the conservation area, the housing mix, the whole lot combines to the detriment of the locality of the conservation area. And I feel that the housing mix is wrong, and it should reflect precisely what the parish council asked for: 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms. After all, we did actually go with the parish council in Crawley Down about the housing near the school. And we said there was too many houses in that very small, if you all recall that area, that one we did, where I think you commented that I was out of the room for quite a long time in a virtual room as we tried to work out what we did. And we went with the parish council's neighbourhood plan. Now, this case, because it is surrounded to the north, well, that is east, that's south, and that is west, the whole area is surrounded by a conservation area. You could argue even the north part with the St Mary's Church, albeit just a little bit further on, so it's completely surrounded by a conservation area. It's not enhancing the conservation area with the closeness to it, and I think is the strongest. The housing mix, the overdensity, overdevelopment, and the too high density surrounding nearby the conservation area. But I will take advice.
Chairman, can I come back?
Yeah, go on, push go.
So, going through the subtext of the neighbourhood plan, it does ask for a mix of dwellings fronting onto Haywards Heath Road within a woodland setting, which the proposal meets. They are on spacious plots, and I explained it is 24 dwellings per hectare, which is low, and so it is very difficult to argue overdevelopment with such a low density. Also, the site is allocated, it is surrounded by a conservation area, and through it being allocated for housing, even though it says approximately 14, it is accepted that there is harm going to be caused to that conservation area. And on balance, it's considered with the layout, the design, the scale, that it's less than substantial harm. So I think it is very difficult to argue the harm to the conservation area and the setting of the conservation area when it is an allocated site.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree that I think what we're doing is establishing the principle that housing can go on this site, even though it's a allocated site. So I don't disagree with that. I think I've got the gist of what the committee is saying is the housing mix is all wrong, and if the housing mix was correct, in theory, you could just spread it out a little bit more. I just think the housing mix is wrong, and they haven't taken consideration with what the parish council wanted. Yes, there are 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms on there, but there are 11 3-bedroom and not as many 1 and 2 bedrooms as there could be, which is not what the parish council wanted on this site. Maybe what the developer wants, but not what the parish council wanted. So we are establishing the principle that housing can go on this site, just saying that scheme is not the scheme which was envisioned when the parish council put that scheme together. Councillor Eccleston.
Again, sorry, thank you, Chairman. Again, a question for Tom. So if this goes to appeal, and bearing in mind the neighbourhood plan says a mixture of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom properties, but doesn't specify what the mix is, what is a planning inspector likely to say?
You'd need a very sympathetic planning inspector.
Okay. Can I just go to a virtual outside with the planning officers and Tom and Zach, while we just thrash out something which was acceptable to all parties? Okay, so,
Could
yes.
I just say, we're talking about the numbers, we're still talking about the numbers of houses, etc., fine. But I'm still concerned if there's not a separate entrance to the public car park. Because when shoppers come, if it stays as it is, you go to get your car, you've got to drive past the flats.
Yeah.
Separate entrance, there's no problem to the flats whatsoever.
Well, we'll discuss that just outside, okay? Could you suspend?
Yeah.
Thank you. Pause. Yeah, you better come.
What's acceptable in terms of general
think we're going to adjourn into that room.
You've got your flask on this. Philip,
Don't encourage him.
Philip, you've got your flask there.
Are we ready to go again, Chairman?
Terry, could we
You'll be ready.
start filming again?
Start.
Yep, we have, thank you.
Alex?
Right, we have a reason for a refusal. It's the housing mix, and it falls under Bolton Parish Council's requirement for 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms. So it's purely under the neighbourhood plan. It should be 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms. Not compliant, the reason for refusal would not happen under the district, and I think I'm going to ask Steve Ashdown to explain why it's policy compliant with the district but not policy compliant with the neighbourhood plan. If people are quite happy with that, we'll go with
Well, in terms of clearly, you have two policies in terms of housing mix. You have the neighbourhood plan policy, which is policy 2.1, which refers to the mix of 1, 2 and 3 bed units. You have the district plan policy DP30, which talks about an appropriate mix for local need. We had a discussion that, in terms of what members are concerned about, it's clearly about the 1, 2 and 3 bed mix on this site. Suggested that the reason refusal just relates to that neighbourhood plan policy. I think it's fair to say, Chairman, that with regard to the whole issue of mix, and I think, I say this as the professional officer in terms of giving planning advice, that any appeal, you would need to have substantial evidence to justify the reason for refusal, and it is fair to say that officers are concerned that there is sufficient evidence to justify that. But I'm here in committee and what committee is concerned, but I think I just need to make that clear before you take the vote.
Okay. So just to remind everybody, if the members are minded to refuse it, the reasons for refusal are under the Bolton Parish Council's housing mix for this particular site, being 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms. And it would be policy compliant with the district plan. If we're happy with that, we've done it before in Crawley Down, supported the Parish Council's neighbourhood plans for a reason to refuse. So I have a proposer and a seconder. Are you still happy with that? Yeah. Okay. So with the reasons to refuse is, what did you say it was? Policy 2.1?
Yeah, policy 2.1 on the neighbourhood plan in terms of housing
Mix for this particular site. Are we happy with that? So could you indicate? Oh, no, you've got to do a carded vote, haven't you?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The motion is to refuse the application. Councillor Brown?
For.
Councillor Cartwright?
For.
Councillor Coote?
For.
Councillor Eggleston?
Against.
Councillor Forbes?
For.
Councillor Marsh?
For.
Councillor Phillips?
For.
And Councillors Cogan and White, the Bell.
She's not here.
None of them are here. And
There's 6.
that's 3 in favour of the motion, Chairman, and 4 against.
No.
No,
6,
it's
wasn't it?
6 for, 1 against.
6 to refuse, 1 to allow it to go through. Okay. This is refused. Thank you.
Chairman, we'll agree the exact wording with yourself.
Vice Chair. Yes, thank you very much. Can I just clerk for a 2-minute break? It is a bit cold and my Vice Chairman would like to avail himself. If anybody wishes to avail themselves.
Go up the stairs.
Quickly to go up the stairs if you're going to go. We're now moving to items we recommend refusal, which I have none. And we're now on to our other matters. Everything here on after is other matters. And just to remind members, in other matters, we don't allow public participation. You have had representations via email and obviously this document we received. But so we've moved to item 6, which is DM 180988 North End Farm, Cookfield Road. Best be appointed. This is yours, Andy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Don't bear with us. Let me just share the screen. Sorry, Steve. Where's the screen? Don't do that. Where is it gone? Just share.
It's the second from the top. Not that one.
No, I need to share it. Sorry. Where's it gone? Apologies all. First time doing this one for a while.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, there we are. Sorry, right. Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, members. Yes, this is another matter which relates to North End Farm, a site between Hurstbeard Point and Burgess Hill. It's before members as the application seeks to discharge the full requirements of a Section 106 agreement entered into in relation to a planning application in 2004. It is the usual case that applications which seek to discharge a Section 106 agreement entirely come before members as another matter, and also actually members did consider this application way back in the year 2000, so rightly that it's back here. North End Farm is a group of converted agricultural buildings between Hurstbeard Point and Burgess Hill, and the plan here, Goddard's Green, is to the north, going up to the 8300, and south you head into Hurstbeard Point. This is an overview of the site. A brief potted history that in the year 2000, an application was made to convert a couple of the buildings into accommodation. As part of that, a Section 106 agreement was entered into, which stated that the buildings should not be separately occupied or thereafter sold off independently. It was not until 2004 that that Section 106 agreement was signed and issued. The 3 units we have on site are the main dwelling here, that was lawful, that was approved in the 2000 permission. This is what's known as the annex to the south, and this is the granary here. These are now separate units of accommodation. Subsequently, the council was approached in about 2016 by the owner seeking to regularise the matter in that the annex and the granary had become separate units of accommodation. The council there subsequently issued lawful development certificates stating the breach of planning control relating to the independent occupation of these units couldn't be enforced by virtue of having taken place for more than 4 years, and a planning permission was granted for the annex. Therefore, it is not possible to enforce any breach of planning control on this site. It thereafter remains just to deal with the Section 106 agreement, noting that we can't enforce the independent occupation of the 2 units. It just falls to look at the ownership of the site, the site, well, the 106 requires it only be in the ownership of 1 person, doesn't prevent the breach of planning control happen, and realistically has no impact on the actual use of those 2 units. Therefore, the Section 106 agreement, being more than 5 years old and no longer serving any real useful purpose, we wouldn't be able to enforce it. The application is there to discharge the Section 106 agreement in its entirety. That's about it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Would it be fair to say the extra 2 units now go onto our housing register as a 5-year land supply?
It is, Chair, yeah, we've checked this, yet there will be paying council tax and we get the 2 extra units on our housing supply this year.
And members will be quite happy to know that we actually collected an awful lot of council tax backdated when we found out that they were being a bit naughty.
It's true.
So the recommendation is on page 109. Does anybody wish to speak about it? No?
Move as recommended, Chairman.
Okay, and that you'll find
Second, Chairman.
Second, yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. That's voted in favour. Councillor Brown?
4.
Councillor Cartwright?
4.
Councillor Coote?
4.
Councillor Eggleston?
4.
Councillor Forbes?
4.
Councillor Marsh?
4.
Councillor Phillips?
4.
That's 7 in favour, Chairman, none against.
Thank you. That is approved. And the section 106 will be amended accordingly by being removed.
Yes.
Right, item 7 on the agenda. This is again another matters, and this relates to planning enforcement. And Andy, I think this is yours again.
It is, thank you, Chair. Yeah.
Just suffice to say that we have received an awful lot of correspondence from the owner of this site. Trust members have read it.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Some photos I need. Right, yes, this relates to an extant enforcement notice issued at Land Ties Cross Farm, Grinstead Lane, West Sussex. Again, it's before members of another matter, so that members can note our intention to commence prosecution proceedings for the failure to comply with the enforcement notice. We don't have to take these matters before members, but it's considered best practice to do so, that the members are aware of the actions of the council. In summary, in 2018, development took place for the creation of a track within a rural location to the east of Sharpthorne. So the site in red is where the development has taken place. The importation material to create a hard surface track. Follow the road north, will take you past Blacklands Farm, eventually to East Grinstead, road down here, on between Sharpthorne and out to Forest Road to Ashdown Forest. This hazed area is actually the edge of the district boundaries. That's Woodland district across the road. Development took place in 2018. There was a failure to regularise development or else cease to breach of planning control by removing the track of the owner's own volition. Council issued an enforcement notice in December 2020. That notice came in effect in January 2021. There was a requirement to comply with that notice by May 2021. We sought to engage with the owner, and a formal extension period till October 2021 was provided. To date, there has been no compliance. Therefore, an offence has been created by failing to comply with the requirements of the enforcement notice, and the council can choose to prosecute should they wish to. That's a picture of the track. The council has concerns regarding the quality of material, the impact on the A and B in which it lies. It was noted the owner has made representations regarding the officers and the conduct of the council. All I'd say is the council is content that the notice is lawful, that the development would have required planning permission, and no such planning permission has been granted. Those are the simple facts of the matter. Thank you.
So the next stage is to the magistrates' court.
It would be, we would contact the owner, that if they just agreed this evening, that would be the next step. Obviously, we seek to try and cease breaches of planning control without recourse to legal action, but that is the sanction which can be applied if there isn't voluntary compliance.
Okay, as members can see, that's what's there now. And it's a mixture of glass, metal, and everything else that you can think of is there. So, what we're seeking to do, it's on recommendation on page 114, page 114. I won't propose to read it all out. Can I have a proposer, please? And the second day, so Councillor Forbes and my Vice Chairman propose next.
Thank you, Chairman. The motion is in favour of the recommendation. Councillor Brown?
4.
Councillor Cartwright.
4.
Councillor Coote.
4.
Councillor Eggleston.
4.
Councillor Forbes.
4.
Councillor Marsh.
4.
And Councillor Phillips.
4.
That's 7 in favour, Chairman, none against.
Thank you. The recommendation is to take the next stage in the enforcement process, and I'll leave it in your capable hands, Andy, to take it forward as and when.
Yes, thank you. We'll instruct our legal officers for the next step.
Right, item 8 is, this is now Bolney, this is a woodland tree preservation order. Again, you've had substantial documentation from legal firm, and this I think is yours, Steve, isn't it?
It is indeed, Chairman.
Do you want to do it from there?
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. So this is a report seeking committee confirmation of a TPO on an area of woodland east of Stone House, Rycroft Road in Bolney. So that is the area in question. If you want to move to the next one as well, Andy. So there was previous felling on the site which prompting the serving of the original order. As you can see, the bottom photo there shows an aerial view of the site in 2018, and the top picture there shows it in 2021, and it's the area to the right-hand side of the photo, which was subject to the area of felling that resulted in the TPO being served originally. You will be aware of the representations that have been made in respect of the TPO. I confirm that the officers have considered the objections and are content that the order is justified. It's also worth pointing out that the order would not prevent the owner from completing appropriate and reasonable maintenance of the woodland in the future, but it's your clear officer's view that the order should be confirmed, and that's the recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr Ashdown. So, does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Phillips.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I believe in the representations from the owner that they're saying that some of the trees are probably already dead and in a pretty infected condition. What would be the situation? Would they have to replace those if we put the TPOs on them now? And is it normal practice to put TPOs on trees that are in a pretty bad condition?
So in terms of, you need to remember this is a woodland order, so in terms of not every tree has been served as you wouldn't expect that within a woodland. You do get dead trees in a woodland, but clearly if a tree is dead or dying, then you don't need consent, even with an order TPO in place, in order to remove that tree. So it could be removed if it's proven that it's dead or dangerous.
It doesn't mean it has to be replaced, though, does it?
It doesn't, no. In no circumstances it doesn't.
If those who remember, we did have something similar down in Arden Light Street Lane. Do you recall that? Same thing. We put an area TPO on it to stop them from taking down all the trees. So the recommendation is on page 119. Can I have a proposer? Vice Chairman and Councillor Forbes is seconding it.
Thank you, Chairman. The motion is to vote in favour of the recommendation. Councillor Brown.
4.
Councillor Cartwright.
4.
Councillor Coote.
4.
Councillor Eggleston.
4.
Councillor Forbes.
4.
Councillor Marsh.
4.
And Councillor Phillips.
4.
Thank you, Chairman. That's 7 in favour, none against.
It is recommended that the order is confirmed. Thank you. Right. Moving back to the agenda. Item 9, questions pursuant to Council Rule Procedure 10.2, due notice which has been given. I have none, so therefore I will close the meeting at 5:56. 5:36, sorry, 5:36. Being dyslexic there. The meeting is closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Robert,
Almost slick.
can I have a quick 2 seconds, please?